I'm doing well. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you. Looking forward to the next, 45, 50 minutes or so with you.
So am I.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Really excited to have Dan Zugelder, SVP and GM of the Americas at VMware. This is episode, I think, 118 of Tech Sales Insights. For those of you that are members, thank you very much. For those that are not, you can go to salescommunity.com and you can do either the paid membership link, or I recommend you doing the one that says Spring Free. And we got Tucker behind the scenes here. So thank you, Tucker. Maybe you can throw that link up there. But before we get into it, I have some introductory comments from some friends. So Joe Koenig, president of WWT, said, I've known Dan for several years. He's a natural sales leader, but also understands the value of partners. He listens, he's fair, drives accountability in all facets of the sales cycle. Plus, he's just a really good person. So that's pretty good. Bill Swales, who used to be at VMware, now he's at Lenovo, VP of Commercial Sales. Bill says, after having the opportunity to work directly for Dan, I can tell you that he's an amazing leader. Dan finds the right balance between strategy and execution, whereby he has the ability to go deep into either topic. He's also customer obsessed in quotes, and is a role model with regards to building and investing in customer relationships. So pretty good there.
Wow.
Greg Ambulos, Dell Channel Chief, says Dan has been in the industry for over 20 years, a little bit more than that, and has excelled in every role he's taken on over his time while at EMC, Dell, and VMware. He's an ultimate professional and is highly respected by his customers, peers, and business associates. And then I had Ken Doherty and Greg Hedstrom tag team here. And I think Greg was with you in New York yesterday, right?
He was, yes. Yeah.
So you might have been with them as they were typing.
Yeah.
But they basically said, very transparent leader, extremely competitive, will jump in and get his hands dirty, great coach, and has created a great followership. So pretty good stuff. And I will send it, because when I do my next week notes, then I get to send you yours, and I just send John McMahon his from last week.
I'm glad you left all the bad stuff out. Thank you, Ray.
There you go. No bad. And your title topic is the psychology of sales. So definitely look forward to hearing about that. You live in Sparta, New Jersey. So sounds like a small place.
Yeah.
You claim not to have much for interest besides work and family, because you're so busy with both. But obviously, as we'll find out a little bit, tied in with Penn State with your kids and going to the beach. So let's jump into the questions here. So you graduated University of Buffalo back in 1990, and your first job was ADP, right?
Yeah. First job, I kind of knew. I don't know why I knew that I wanted to get into sales, even when I was in college. I just felt that it was a good path, and I got lucky. I knew a friend of a friend at ADP, and they were hiring young people right out of school. So I kind of fit the profile. And I will tell you this, it was in Buffalo, New York. And so we did all foot canvassing. For people that haven't done that, you used to go door to door, small business sales in the middle, all through winter. That was my first. I started in September and did that all the way. So literally at the end of the day, your shoes, your dress, black wingtips.
Oh yeah.
Be all yeah. If you remember those, you
lace with laces, right?
Sure, exactly. You'd be all salt stained and everything. So that's, if you had nice shoes, they were ruined. You just gonna use the same shoes and it's try to scrub the salt stains off them. But it was a good company as far as ADP really followed a deep training of young salespeople on really the fundamentals of a sales call, and pulling out, asking questions, open-ended questions, and pulling out needs, and all those fundamentals that, quite frankly, have never left me.
Wow, awesome. And then from there, so basically, I think you worked for, depending how you count them, EMC and VMware, you can count as the same, but kind of ADP, EMC, VMware, so kind of 2 to 3 companies over 33 years, which is amazing. I think probably Billy Scannell maybe is the only one that has you beat. but maybe just kind of quickly go through your roles at EMC and then VMware.
Yeah, so I started at EMC in 2000, and for people that were at EMC 2000, it was booming. EMC, I joked they were hiring anyone with a heartbeat. That's how I got in. They didn't have a lot of criteria. They were just getting bodies, and that was the .com. Your Y2K, the .com boom was going on. And it wasn't long after that, all of a sudden, everything crashed. And so I had a young family. I got married young. I had a young family at home. And all of a sudden, they're doing riffs. And I'd only been at the company for about a year. And I'm like, man, I'm not very qualified. I'm not very good. And I think this is not going to fare well for me. But I made it through 3 riffs. And, talking about this sweat off your brow, you're like, wow, I made it through. And I didn't exactly have what you call a nest egg at home. I was like living paycheck to paycheck. But I did happen this when I joined EMC, I loved their culture. I instantly was drawn to it as I was an athlete in college. I played football for 4 years, and I was just this highly competitive person. And I got involved in this sales organization that was just really thrived on competitiveness and drive, and no deal was ever dead. You just never gave up. And I instantly knew. I remember telling my wife at the time, I'm like, I just think I found my fit. This is really good. And I was fortunate enough to be a part of like a lot of great sales leaders and my peers. I always, look back with such incredible memories of how I developed because of the people I was around. They made me better. They challenged me. They really were a catalyst to get better at our profession that we all love so much.
Yes, so you got to join the easy days when EMC was a leader. I was there where nobody knew who the heck.
Yeah.
So
it was.
That's why I don't. That's why I don't have any hair left.
It was good for a little while. It got tough when the stock went from 100 to 365. Those were some tough times we went through, but overall it was a great place to be a part of.
Great. And then part of any great culture and that sales execution is obviously the leadership. And I'm sure you've got, fond memories of kind of those along the way that probably taught you a lot too, right?
Well, some of the best. Kevin Delaney's been on this. He's been on Sales Community. And by the way, Sales Community, it's great to see so many. It is a great venue to bring a lot of people together. I'd never seen anyone try to do what you're doing, Randy. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you.
And I love to watch these. I've picked up and probably watched 10 or 12, maybe more of these. Sometimes people I know, some people I don't. But Kevin Delane was one of the people that hired me, and I worked for a number of years. And Billy Scannell, he was obviously, I worked directly for him the last 7 years I was at EMC running global accounts. So, working for those type of people that have been extremely successful in their careers, but also, I mean, they gave me so much. But I would tell you that's probably, if anybody can be fortunate enough to get the opportunity to work for those great people, it's a gift and one that I'll never forget.
Yeah. What about maybe from Kevin and Bill, if there's one specific nugget you remember kind of from a training perspective or what you learned?
Yeah, I think Kevin was, because he had been at EMC for a while and I starting new. I think he was probably a little understanding that I didn't understand the technology. I didn't come from this technology background, but also understand you need to learn the technology. You need to understand it. And if you don't have at least a fairly deep level of understanding, you'll never really understand your customers. And he was one of the first people that was extremely customer centric. I got to watch that firsthand, saying, hey, listen, we do whatever we need to do for a customer, and whatever their ask is, you do it. And you don't second guess it. You do it
within reason and fairness, integrity. Yes. You got to box it.
Morally correct and ethically correct, of course. Yeah. But it was going above and beyond. So I think that's what I took out of Kevin. It was that customer, you just go and listen, back in the day, we would be in a data center on a weekend as a salesperson as they're doing an install, and you were there. And sometimes you didn't have a lot of value beyond being there, but the customer you cared enough to spend a Saturday night in a data center floor. If you've been in a data center, there's not a lot of place to sitting on a data center floor, sometimes just providing food and stuff like that for the engineers that are doing the real work. but it was about saying, I care about how this goes and I will do whatever I can. And that's something I learned from Kevin.
Yeah. So back in the day, the salespeople would do the installs in the 80s.
I didn't do install. They kept me off the keyboard.
The hardest thing was just figuring out where, because you'd have whatever service person at the time, we'd have DEC, Prime Wang, HP, IBM, and you'd have the other service person there watching. And the first thing was, oh shit, can I find the friggin' computer, right? So that was like this, like the selling was the easy part. The hardest thing, you have to do that, right? And then you'd find it, and then each of them would have a different funky way of how you actually open the door. And then you'd have to, like, you open the wrong one. Oh, okay, I just want to make sure that's okay. Then you shut it. And then you got to find that says memory boards, and you have to freaking find like where the rack thing is. And everybody had this code, and we're, going through, it's almost like you're reading a manual, like how to open a door and pull a handle. And they're like, are you really? Well, we just have to make sure that like we'd have like no clue. We're like sweating bullets. So you got
my tech career probably would have ended if they asked me to do that. So I'm fortunate that I just had to be there kind of as a cheerleader, if you want to call it, for the engineers that were actually hands-on keyboards. So fortunately, I didn't have to do that.
Crazy. And I have a good story. So never giving up. So Dick and Roger were basically the founders, and both amazing. But I was on sales calls once with John Clavin in Australia, and Roger, and basically his customer told us no 100 or 200 times, right? No. So he's walking us out. You can tell he's just so happy just to get rid of us. The door goes to close. Roger sticks his arm in. Well, one more thing. What about blah 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 blah? The guy's like, "Will you just get out of here?" It's like, well, I have to add, but it's kind of that. That's kind
I love it. And by the way, that culture's, I love it. It's a never give up culture. And by the way, that's what Billy, one of the things, talking about competitiveness, one of the things working for him is that, to thrive off that, not just do it, but actually thrive in an organization and build an entire team that is looking to say, you know what, when we just got to know, this just made our job that much more interesting, right?
Yeah.
And actually not look at it as begrudgingly doing it, but actually thriving in it. And customers, I got to tell you, in the 32 years I've been selling, I haven't had a single day in 32 years I have not been on quota. That's a little fun fact. With that, I will tell you, customers may not always show it, but they appreciate when you care that much about what you sell, that you're not willing to give up. They may say, get out, but deep down, they're like, man, that passion is contagious. And I really like to do business with people that care that much about their business.
Absolutely. And I forgot to do my shout out and thanks to Gong. So the logo you asked is a good question. It's actually Gong, who's a sponsor. So as I like to say it, the emerging tech stacks, if you think about how Oracle emerged from Informix and Sybase and PeopleSoft and all that, Gong will be the player, or one of the players, in my opinion, for sure. So they're the revenue intelligence platform. They transform organizations with an accurate understanding of customer interactions to increase business efficiency, improve decision-making, and accelerate revenue growth. So thank you to Gong for being a sponsor. I'll keep the hat on for a little bit. So your role, you have a big job, SVP, VMware for Americas. What are maybe kind of two kind of main priorities that you have for this year?
Well, the foundation is always about customer value. And I've always, I don't have a conversation with anyone on my team which doesn't start with what's in it for the customer and why are we doing this. So I think that driving that culture throughout, one of the things that VMware has had one of the most incredible, innovative companies in tech over the past 25 years. We turned 25 years this year. We're quite proud of that. But the innovation engine has been incredible. And, one of the reasons I came to VMware was about 5 years ago, was to drive, if you could have this great innovation engine and this great customer culture and bring both of those together, it would be a combination that would just, quite frankly, not beatable. And so for me, my part of it, and I think one of the reasons I was asked to come to VMware was purely to bring that customer centricity, that customer focus, along with the innovation from our engineering team to really deliver the greatest value.
Yeah, awesome. And if you think of maybe kind of one or two challenges that you have for this year, what would you say?
Well, the elephant in the room is that we've been acquired, an intent to acquire on May 26th. Broadcom announced their intent to acquire VMware. So, people have been doing business with VMware for a very long time, and a lot of trust there. And let's be honest. There was some negativity around Broadcom initially about maybe what they would do with VMware, and was this a positive thing. So we've spent a lot of time with customers. I've spent a tremendous amount of time personally with Hock Tan, understanding what he wants to do with VMware and how he wants to really make sure that VMware continues to do wonderful things for our customers. So we've spent a lot of time over the past year explaining where we're going with this, what the acquisition means, how it's going to actually enable us to do things that we haven't been able to do before, and really focus on their outcomes. So I have to say, the first reaction from customers were like, I'm not sure that's a good thing. Not everybody, but we were getting a pretty consistent, like, hey, wait a second, I see where this is going. I think this could be a very positive thing for us as customers. So we've been spending a lot of time with customers, talking them through what it means to them, and quite frankly, really sculpting the future of VMware and Broadcom through their feedback, and that's been invaluable.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, a bigger thing there too, also is just kind of keeping the people, right? So you got to keep customers, you got to keep the partners, but you got to make sure that the troops believe. And you got this kind of stuff in Europe, whether it's going to get approved or not. And truth be told, there's probably a lot of probably folks in sales that say, hey, we'd rather just stay and be independent. So how do you make sure that you can kind of effectively communicate kind of the vision and the passion and the optimism that you have for the future to them?
Randy, it was a comment made by, it may have been Greg Hedstrom or one of the people, about transparency. And I'm a massive believer in trust. I think everybody is. But it's so foundational to my life. And so being transparent is one of the ways you gain trust. And I am incredibly transparent with people about my personal feelings about good and the bad. And that transparency is one of the ways that I gain trust. So people, if they trust me and I say, hey, listen, we don't have all the answers. I did a presentation for our leadership in Vegas a couple of weeks ago, and I'll share just a little bit. And I said that I shared on May 26th, and I shared a slide that had a lot of dark clouds and some negative comments from team members, customers, and partners. Mm-hmm. And I shared a slide. The next slide was a slide with sun beaming through, but there were still some clouds. There's some clouds of uncertainty. We don't have all the answers yet, but there's a lot more. And then the positive comments from partners, customers, and team members that said, hey, there's still some uncertainty, but people are looking for that type of trust and transparency. And when you're a leader, you're really in a position where I cannot tell somebody something that I don't believe myself. I won't do it and haven't done it. And if I don't believe in it, I'll tell people, but I've been, asking people to be at least open and optimistic and not, focus on negatives or assume the worst. And in that, I think we've had a pretty good run. In fact, I've been really proud of how many people have said, hey, I want to give this a shot. And we've retained a vast majority of our entire team members. So.
That's great. Kind of a funny story tied in with that. When I was at Sun Microsystems running North America, Oracle had announced they were going to buy us. Nobody in the room knew, but I was going to be going with Donatelli and Hurd over to HP to run the Americas. And we're kind of at our last, I think it was a partner conference or something like that. And I don't know if you know Continental Resources, they're kind of Boston based. And basically they tricked out everything. So I had to wear this thing, the sun will come out tomorrow. And they gave me some Holy Temple wig or whatever it is. So I felt like such a schmuck because I'm, number one, singing the song, which is lame. And I'm trying to give everybody optimism, knowing that I'm going. But, the point is being transparent and, knowing that you're going to stay. I wasn't inferring anything else in there for sure is so great. And then actually here we have, sorry, Jonathan here, I've been missing you. So anybody that is watching or listening, feel free to make a comment. We love questions. I can always ask, but I'm sure lots of you have some great questions. So Jonathan Copeland said, howdy, Dan and Randy. Then he goes on to say, Randy and Dan have been there in those data center floors as the engineer. I don't know if I quite say engineer, but also thanks to the sales teams for the food. Recently rejoined sales in VMware as part of the hyperscaler cloud team as a staff cloud solutions architect for OCVS. So it sounds like he's a
Oh yeah, well, welcome. Yeah, that's our partnership with Oracle, and welcome Jonathan to the team.
There you go. Love being back in the pre-sales sales side. And then he goes on to ask a question. Dan, what do you think of the recently patented method by VMware of the OFA, outcome-focused approach process? If you know about that.
Yeah, I'm not intimate. This is where I am not intimately familiar with that, so I don't want to speak about some. Sorry,
no problem. It's probably good that you're not. But Dan, if you want to ask more around kind of anything on the go-to-market side, or people, or leadership, or sales, definitely ask that. So you also have some openings that you guys are recruiting for, or always looking for top talent?
We are. I mean, listen, great salespeople and sales leaders are hard to come by, and we are looking for the best. We think we provide one of the most unique cultures. VMware is, I've found to be different than any place I've ever been in the fact that we treat people, we drive in for results as any sales organization does. We care about our customers deeply. We have a great culture of treating people the way we'd want to be treated, which, by the way, is sometimes being challenged and to be the best we can be. I want to be, people to do that, bring out the best in people. So we think we offer an incredible culture, incredible technology, and really an incredible future. So hopefully if you're looking and you're a top talent, we'd love to hear from you.
Great. And there's, I think in a good way, some of that initial kind of Diane Green and then Pat Gelsinger, kind of a lot of that, not that the Northeast isn't, but kind of that California kind of culture, niceness aspect.
Yeah, it is definitely.
You have the best of that kind of, I don't say touchy feely, but the people side with then the kind of the EMC execution engine, which is kind of the perfect blend. Right.
You said it better than I could, Randy. That's exactly what I was getting at. If you could find some balance sometimes and find the best of all cultures, I think that's how you create a new, better culture.
Awesome. All right. So Jonathan, thanks. And any others watching along, feel free to comment, heckle, ask any questions as well here. Dan Zugelder, SVP and GM of the Americas Sales at VMware. So recently you said you had a great week in Vegas with the sales leadership team. How's that?
Well, I guess it starts with, the whole remote thing for most people. I think they've been it was tough for everybody. And, I think everybody made do. You had no choice. So you did what you had to do. But most of us did not like it. And I don't know too many people that said they did. So, with that, we hadn't had a leadership meeting. We had actually canceled our kickoff the day before on March 13th. We started flying everybody into Vegas on that.
No way. That was like when the shit hit the fan, right?
It hit the fan. And we literally canceled on a Friday and had to turn around and deliver a kickoff days later, remotely or virtually. And, so it was 2019 since we had our people together in a big group. So having everybody together, I got to tell you, the energy, Randy, off the charts. I mean, it was so good. I'm a hugger, just giving people a hug and, just to see people again and to, this works. We're doing something in video. There's nothing better than having a group of your leadership team. I've been fortunate to be with these people for 4 or 5 years now. So people have really deep relationships, to be able to be there and to feel like, hey, we can exit today on the same page. We collectively are doing this as a team. You can't do that virtually. You can't look into a camera and accomplish that, in my opinion. So the energy level off the charts. And, some of it was hard work and all that. And some of it was just, having a drink and a meal with people. And so anyway, I have to say, if you can't feel in my voice, it was an incredible week. And one I hope everybody got as much out of it as I did.
That's awesome. And you've also been one of the key leaders around the gender equity initiatives. Any best practices there to share?
Well, I feel like, I have two daughters. Actually one daughter that is going to her second year internship at Dell. Dell has they have one of the best internship programs that exists. My son worked at Dell as well, and they do an incredible job. Uh, Jason Romsey that runs it is just a top leader, and his entire team really does a great job. But having daughters, I think I have a daughter who's 24 as well, and as a teacher, you say, hey, listen, how do these people want to be treated? And they want to be treated. You want the best for them, and so you look in the workforce. And one of the reasons that attracted me to VMware is how we treat everyone. And it's fair across the board, no matter what your background is, where you come from, your gender, and so forth. So I think it's great. I'm a big believer in it, and I think people thrive in this environment.
Awesome. It's so important. And then at Penn State, I don't do they have a sales program?
They don't have a sales program. It's a pretty Randy. It's one that I know very few universities have. And I know there's been some people that are closer to this than I, but I am disappointed by it, because I believe we are in a profession that takes knowledge and skills. And I think it's disappointing. First of all, I'm hoping you as well. We've all been very fortunate to be in this profession. And one, it's allowed us to take care of our families and so forth. And I think it's disappointing that more universities don't have those curriculums, those programs. I think something's being missed.
Yeah, and especially just around the whole diversity topic, right? It's like, okay, what a great way to get more. Everybody says, you're kind of DEI policies and what are you doing in sales? Or the problem is you have such a small group to work with, so you can nurture and cultivate that. What about if you can go back in the schools and you can have that that pile of people be that much larger, and then you're cultivating, nurturing much larger population, and then they go back and tell their friends, and then things continue to go and grow. It's just crazy. And somewhere like at Penn State, like how do you not have, and then
how do you not
like at Boston College, right? How many people end up in, oh, I'm not going to be in sales. Like, okay, when you graduate, what are you going to do? Okay, most people are going to end up in sales, and then they're not trained. But then those who were fortunate enough to go through the programs, or just have such an unfair advantage. It's crazy. Mike, I don't know if you ever knew Mike Ruckers or not.
I did. I knew of him, but he was CEO when I was a new sales rep, so he wasn't spending a lot of time with me.
But great guy, and talked to him a few times. So he's funding a sales school where he went at Idaho State University. I'm helping him with a few things, but I was with Ken Doherty and God, I'm going to think of his name later. I'm pretty sure he's at VMware, runs Tom Fryer.
Okay.
Tom, I think he's on your team. But anyway, we have kids at Alabama who went and talked to class down there, and for those that have the programs, it's definitely so impressive.
I think it's a major miss for universities. I think it's an incredible profession. By the way, if you're a sales leader, you're always looking for talent. So your pool needs to get bigger. And if you've got more people indoctrinated into this amazing career early on, the pool would naturally get better. You would get better quality people and more of them.
And more diversity.
And more diversity would naturally come with it. There you go. Completely agree.
All right, we got a question here from Peter Brennan, I believe newly minted CRO.
Yes, Peter, congratulations.
You've got some VMware DNA, so obviously.
Yeah, a top leader. And Peter, it's great to hear from you. And in fact, I've been following you a little bit on your new job and your wishing you well. Sounds like a fantastic opportunity.
Awesome, it is for sure. Fortunately, Peter, though, as you can tell, probably you can just coast because Greg DeFria has everything wired and your numbers are all set. But anyway, all right. So Peter asks, can you share details on how you keep the field focused on advancing client priorities and bringing in revenue during the potentially distracting Broadcom acquisition? I'm sure all leaders are faced with unique distractions within the current economy. So you touched on a little bit before, but I think it's probably around the top of just focus. So you've got the whole economy issue. Some customers now, maybe financial services especially, aren't kind of doing as well. You got the Broadcom thing, and your reps are just like, oh my God. And also, I think the younger generation also thinks the grass is always greener.
They
I got
do.
people call me all the time, and like I stop after 5 minutes, like, hey, number one, grass is not always greener. So, kind of, what are some of your thoughts?
Well, I think you kind of hit it, Peter. Is that the great equalizer in focus is when you get everybody collectively thinking about the customer. So whenever, and listen, it's sometimes easier said than done. I'd be the first, I don't, people are human as well. But when you fixate everything on the value you deliver to customer, on customer challenges and so forth, it allows them to get more focused than ever before and less worried about the changes that they can't control. Like what's happening with Broadcom, what's happening with the economy. Those are things that are outside of their control. And, we all sometimes spend too much time worrying about things we can't control, right? And what can you control day to day? It's being there in front of your customers, helping them solve their problems. And so if you can try to fixate people as much as possible, I try to do that for, leading from the front is when they see that and they're seeing their peers and everybody all fixating on that, it is the great way to make an impact of something you can control versus worrying about something you can't control.
Yeah. So, age old fix is, sales calls, right? So
Yes.
sales calls. But then if you can be leading from the front and driving that yourself, almost nothing's better than that. And then I think recently too, you also did an all hands in Austin, a town hall in New York City. Any takeaways from those?
Well, we started doing. I would tell you for any sales leader on here, we started doing in-person all hands. So there's about 4,000 people in the Americas, and we were doing something like this, a virtual type event, and of course you can't be in front of all 4,000 people every quarter. That's just not feasible. But we decided to go from city to city and take places. We run our digital sales organization out of run by Chris Keller, CK, great leader for me. And we do that in Austin. So we would have our all hands there. So you'd have a live audience. We'd have several hundred people there. And then everybody else would be virtual, but you got to feed off that energy. And even people that were virtual got to feed off some of that energy. So we've done it in New York, we've done it in Austin, we've done it in California, we've done it in a few different locations. So we've kind of made it a hybrid, if you want to call it. Yeah. And we've gotten good feedback from it. So that's the nature that's behind. Obviously, it's a chance for us to do some recognition, a chance for us to do some education. And ultimately a chance for us to hear from what's going on with the team members.
That's great. Do you include partners?
Always. Typically we have partners present as a part of it. I know we do a lot with Presidio and John Hanlon. They've done as well as with Ahead and WWT. So we're a big partner organization. We're a big believer. Our partners are fantastic. So we typically have them involved. Sometimes they're presenting, sometimes they're just part of the social part of us getting together in those locales.
Yeah, awesome. I used to, when I was at HP, of course, corporate folks, you can't intermix partners and your field team, and there's obvious reasons why you want to do it, but also having them host it's kind of the different partner facilities, which is great. Yeah. Just kind of logistics and even the cost and all that. And then they like to kind of show up there. So, get people, kind of partners fighting. No, I want to have you go to our office. No, I want to have you go to our office. But yeah. I mean, nothing more authentic than you being out there yourself. Hey, let's ask questions, happy to talk off the cuff, and really just getting everybody, truly inspired and motivated. That's fantastic. And then on the kind of opposite side from your troops, now you got invited to used to be able to say the big boy table, but I guess you can't say it anymore. So you got invited to the big exec board meeting of the VMware board members, right?
Yeah, this is it's one of the things VMware has been doing long before I joined, but it's the idea behind it is really incredible. And Joe Tucci is the one that he was on the VMware board and CEO of EMC, and he's the one that really started was the opportunity for board members and customers to mix in an environment where the board can hear directly from customers about sometimes things they like, sometimes things they don't like about the company, but it's a really unique opportunity to intermingle customers and board members. So if you're going to be customer centric, the board needs to be intimate with what customers are saying, what they want you to do or not do, or buy or not, or get rid of. So it's incredible to sit there and watch at a table, to have typically a couple board members, 4 or 5 customers, and usually one VMware person at that table, and just watch that interaction goes. Those board members all come out of it. We're like, wow, I really feel like I'm closer to the challenges. I'm closer to the customer. So it's been highly successful, and we run it every year, typically in New York. So it does. Customer base tends to be a little bit more financial services, but we get people flying in from all over to attend, even people coming in from Europe to attend. So it's a really well-attended event. And I think if you want to really care about customers, you get them in front of your board members.
Totally. Awesome. I wonder if Joe, though, ever did that when it's nice of him to do it when he's on the board of VMware, but did he ever do that when he was CEO at EMC?
I think there was something similar at EMC as well.
There you go. And then I almost left out. So your daughter Delaney is doing fundraising for the Penn State Thon, right? Which is a great charity.
It's incredible. It's for pediatric cancer. So Thon is 100% student-run charity event that they run. It's a build up. It's planned for a whole year. Again, all students run this entire thing. What great skills they learn, by the way, in doing that. And they run an event in which there's a weekend. It's a long weekend, and they raised $15 million. It's the single largest fundraising event for pediatric cancer. And what's so impressive is that, if you have kids, I have 3, and if you have kids that are college age, they tend to be very me-centric. Their world revolves around them a lot, natural for their age and all that.
Right.
But when you have all these kids participating in something that's bigger than themselves, and not just about themselves, but about people that have, obviously, one of the worst things in the world is pediatric cancer, they step out. I think it builds on who they are, their character and their maturity, because they're really working really hard at something that's not just for themselves. So that's why I love it so much. It's a great cause. It's great for the kids. It's just all around a win-win-win.
Oh, fantastic, and awesome that Delaney's taking the time to drive that.
We're very proud of what she's doing there. She cares deeply about it.
There you go. Nothing like a shout out to your daughter. And then you're also at a annual gala, Chance for Life, with kind of long time anxiety. So Guy Cirillo, I knew back in the JPMC days. Now he's a big mucky muck, and right. So he's amazing, right.
Guy, listen, one of the things that I think is we're very fortunate to build up a network of people. And as I said, sales has been very good to many people, and the chance to make some money, but it's a chance to give back then, right? And I think one of the things that's a beautiful thing is that so many people that are helping each other out. So Guy, A Chance of Life is something that he's intimately involved with for many years. So to be able to go support that, contribute to that, and be a part of that success, by the way, Guy gives back to so many different organizations as well. I just think how could you not give back? We've been so fortunate. One of the things that I say, we've been in tech sales. Tech sales has given, dummies like me a chance to have a career. And how can you not give back? And so I see so many of people in the industry that give back and do really a lot of good things with the opportunity that we've been given. So the Chance of Life is a fantastic organization. Guy is a class act through and through, and gives back about as much as anyone I know. So hats off to him for what he does.
Amazing. And then I don't know anybody that would exemplify class in a great way, classic old school sales than Don Giordano.
Yes,
And
yeah.
they just don't make him like that anymore.
No, but I tell you what, it's incredible what he's been able to accomplish. He's just, he spent roughly 25 years on JP Morgan Chase. He has some more responsibilities, but always has had, think about how many leadership changes happen in a bank over the course of 25 years. To be able to adapt to that new leadership team and to know what's important to them and to continue to be successful. Donnie is a consummate sales professional. One that I will tell you, Randy, we all learn from our bosses. And you asked me earlier on, how would you learn from Kevin and Bill Scannell? And I learned a tremendous amount. But I will tell you, I've learned more from the people that worked for me and I've worked alongside of by far. And those people, every nugget you get some, and just because somebody is a few levels below you doesn't mean you can't learn a tremendous amount from them. And so I go into every meeting saying, okay, what can I learn here? Because I'm going to exit this meeting. I'm going to learn something. And if they learn something from me, great. I hope they do. But certainly I know I want to come out of it with something. And I learned a lot from Donnie Giordano.
There you go. Absolutely. He's the best. And then Robert DeMaria, another great one.
Another great one. Yes.
And then a LinkedIn user, said, is that relay for life? And I think it's chance for life.
A chance at life. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. So two different things. So, all right, we probably have another 5 minutes or so left. So thanks for those that have asked questions. Any others, feel free to chime in. So awesome conversation. I'm going to kind of maybe a little bit more of a lightning round, so maybe shorter answers. So if you're talking to your reps or kind of assume you have SDRs too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So my words, not yours, but kind of just sloppiness in sales these days, right? How do you make sure, again, not to say go back 20 years ago, but how do you make sure everybody's kind of tight in terms of what they're doing and how they're doing it?
Well, the one thing that's rang true, and there's a lot when people talk about fundamentals. There's a reason they're called fundamentals, is that they're foundational, and no matter what changes with technology or custom tools that you use to get to customers, whatever, there's certain foundations that are always fundamentals that are always going to ring true. And so to me, I'm a big believer in always doing the simple things well. And it's one of the messages I had from my leadership team is execution is doing some of the simple things really well and then building upon that. And once you have that strong foundation and the fundamentals are strong, you can build upon that. And so I think everything from, going in and running a proper sales call, proper follow-up, to ensuring that you have the proper type of proposals, that you engage and don't single-minded the enterprise and make sure that you're touching everybody in that organization. Those are things that ring true, will always ring true 20 years from now and 20 years ago. So I'm a big believer in that.
Awesome. And I do I might be old school.
I love that. By the way, I read those on LinkedIn. I read those all the time because, it's kind of to that point. Maybe it's not old school. These are what I believe are foundation. I think they're fundamentals, is what you're referring to. And by the way, if you haven't seen those on LinkedIn, you should look at Randy posts probably once a week or once every other week. I'm not sure how often.
Once a week.
Yeah, and it's good because it makes you think. It challenges it a little bit.
And then one this week that's gotten a lot of traffic is just around windshield time, right? So, what's your take on the value of windshield time?
Well, if you're, I think everybody knows this, but as a sales manager, whenever you're going out on a customer call, there's so many things that you accomplish in that opportunity. It's not, yes, the foundation is the customer and the sales meeting and the sales call. Of course, that is. But you get a chance to get to know that individual, get to connect and get to learn about where they came from and what their story is. Gives you a chance to maybe give some feedback that's not what I'll call it's easy to digest. You walk out of sales call, hey, here's what I saw, here's what I observed. Did you any feedback for me as well? And so you get a chance to train, develop, you get a chance to connect with your people, you get a chance to obviously impact a sales campaign. So I just think that people going into it, I look at there's so many things to accomplish that it's never wasted time.
Yeah, so great and so true. So kind of a different perspective here. So I know you've got a great leader in Sean that does your sales ops, rev ops. What's the importance you think these days of kind of sales ops and rev ops, and how does that help you?
Well, that person, and I will tell you that Sean Barrett, and please nobody try to steal him from me, is an absolutely incredible leader. But
And I'm sure a great team too.
And he does. Because he's a great leader. He's got a great team below him. That what he did, that partnership with your sales ops and sales strategy, for me as a sales leader, is so critically important. By the way, if you want to be a sales leader that's out in front of customers and out in front of team, there's a lot of day-to-day things that you need to trust that person is executing on those things day to day. So that is a great partnership, friendship, and one that you get that right is as a sales leader for success. I believe is critically important.
Awesome. And you didn't know Mike Ruckers, but one of the things you say, I'd be remiss if I didn't say such and such. So I'd be remiss not acknowledging Gongs, our sponsor today, the Revenue Intelligence Platform, and can also do so much more as well. And I'm sure everybody's going to be seeing and knowing and hearing more of them as well. So we mentioned SDRs before. So for any of them early in career, trying to get ahead, you'd mentioned fundamentals. Any other kind of words of wisdom that you'd have for them?
You and I think you mentioned it. So I'm going to, one of the things as people are new in their careers, I think one of the things that happens is that you go through difficult times. This culture that we have, and maybe this is an old school thing, so I'm going to be careful. I am old, but is that when times get tough, you just move on. And for people that are new in their careers, I'm not talking. I don't want to sound condescending at all, but I would tell you from personal experience that some of those tough times are some of the most important learning opportunities you'll ever have. And you actually give up an opportunity by moving on. And I'm not telling somebody that they should never change jobs. That's certainly not the message. But during the toughest times are the times that you learn the most. And there's a book, and I'm a slow reader, so I have to get simple, easy to read books, but it's called The Obstacle is the Way. And it's a book that can be read in a day. But it basically says the only times you learn in life are during difficult times. And when things are good, you're not actually growing and learning. And I would just encourage people that are newer in their careers that when they're going through challenging times to try to turn it and say, this is difficult. And we all know it is. We've all been through it. And we'll go through it again in our lives. But they are learning opportunities, and don't always give up on them too quickly.
Absolutely. I'm going to give a shameless plug, but on fundamentals, I strongly recommend your go-to sales advisor. A bunch of the people you mentioned here today contributed, kind of 90 plus CROs, tips, tricks. I've got a bunch in there.
It's a great book, and I strongly recommend it to everybody as well.
There you go. You heard it here. So anyway, so Dan, you've been awesome. Thanks so much for those.
Thank you for having me. I didn't think I'd ever make your list. This is if you get the invite to Randy's Sales Community Podcast, everything else is gravy from here on out. So I felt privileged to get the invite. Thank you, Gong, for the thank you for the sponsorship, and Randy, thank you so much for having me. I felt honored. I was a little nervous today, so bear with me.
You're good. No. Awesome. Incredible. And I get in trouble now because we're actually booked out actually October of 2025. So I guess just about two and a half years every week. So who the heck knows what we're doing? But you got in early, so that's great.
Well,
So
thank you.
Stephen, awesome. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. For those that are members of sales community, thanks. If you're not, feel free to join. And Tucker, make sure this gets reposted and sliced and diced everywhere. Next week, we're going from a bigger company to smaller. Roy and Nadav, who are at Spotlight, who's a value selling platform company. So they'll be I guess sponsoring, and we'll be on next week as well. So Dan, take care. You're awesome. Have a great one. Look forward to continuing to watch your amazing success.
Thank you. And thanks for running sales community. I still think somebody had to do it, Randy, and I'm glad you did. I think you're adding, I think it's something that was many years overdue. So I'm glad you're doing it. And I think it's a great way to bring sales professionals together.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Okay.
And